Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Movies by McManus podcast, the podcast where we break down movies, comics, TV, books, whatever type of media you're into in the context of who created it and what effect it's trying to have on the world. I'm your host, Greg. I'm with my brother, Mike.
Hello, thank you.
We are two brothers from New York, and we're going to be talking about two brothers from New York today, yes. Josh and Benny Safdie, the Safdie brothers, and their two movies, the 2019 film Uncut Gems and the 2017 film Good Time. And I brought this up in my breakdown, this kind of idea of the auteur filmmaker where a filmmaker who brings a particular style into every movie that they make. And I think particularly with these two movies, they feel very similar and they have two very similar characters, or at least their characters kind of have the same flaw, where you follow in Good Time, Robert Pattinson's character, Connie, is a petty criminal who basically he got into this mess because he can't stop breaking the law. And he believes that by continuing to commit crimes, by continuing to coerce people, he's going to get out of it. And then you have Howard in Uncut Gems, played by Adam Sandler, who he got into the mess he's in because he keeps gambling, and he believes that by gambling, he's going to get out of this mess.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the addiction element.
There's an addiction element, too.
I can't speak to being a criminal because I'm not a criminal, but yeah. I can speak to the addiction element. So I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know if there's an addiction element in Good Time. Maybe there's a survival element. There feels like backs up against the wall. There is a survival element in Good Time where you have Robert Pattinson's character Connie. He's probably a worse person than Howard is, but you feel more sympathetic towards him, definitely, because you definitely get this feeling of this guy was raised in poverty. He doesn't really have like a family backing him. He's an ex-con, and this is really all he knows. And he has an almost righteous goal of he has a mentally handicapped brother, and his goal is really to get enough money that they can kind of escape New York City and get to a place where staying alive and just staying afloat financially isn't a constant struggle for them. And they don't really have, he doesn't really have the means of making a legitimate income like Howard does. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that he's more sympathetic. I get it from like the class perspective,
but there's a lot of unforgivable shit he does in this movie.
And to me, there's a lot of forgivable things about Howard, which is just like, if you're stupid enough to give that guy money, right? How am I supposed to feel bad for you?
The main antagonist of Uncut Gems is a guy who let Howard borrow $100,000 from him. Yeah, which, like, I love this movie how we set up very early who Howard is, and that pretty much his like entire family is done with him. Where we know who this guy is. His entire family is like, yeah, you fuck up and you borrow money and you never pay it back. And anyone who's dumb enough to give him money, you kind of deserve to get it stolen.
Well, it's also, that's where the addiction angle comes in, right? Because it's like, are you gonna get angry at a drug addict for doing drugs? Like maybe the first few times, but when they're clearly an addict, you're disappointed. You're not angry. I mean, I don't want to speak for people in every situation, of course, but that's where I'm almost more sympathetic towards Howard. Right. You know, because it's also in his family life, he doesn't really have a great family life. His wife hates him. They're getting divorced.
His kids can't be bothered with him. I mean, his son kind of... One of the most brutal scenes is the scene in the kitchen between him and his daughter.
Yeah, when his daughter barely even wants to look at him. And
by the way, I'm sure he doesn't even... I'm sure however she's acting towards him, I'm sure he deserves it. But it still sucks to see.
And with the son... The son doesn't like him. The son likes this fantasy version of him.
Right.
Of like, he's a hardcore gambler who always wins, and he's really cool into sports, and he hangs out with Kevin Garnett.
Exactly.
It's the fantasy version of his life that the son is kind of in love with. I love this movie. I love how they casted Adam Sandler to play this role. Not only does he nail it, but... If you think of Adam Sandler's character type, the man-child, every movie he's done thus far is the fantasy version of that character. Billy Madison is the fantasy version of that character. Happy Gilmore is the fantasy version of that character. This is that character in real life. This is the man-child in real life, and that's not a person you want to be.
No, and he reminds me of... There's people that remind me of him. I'll leave it like that. But the point is, like, the sort of lovable fuck up. Like, we've touched on this
in Beach Bum. We talked about, and Beach Bum is the fantasy version of that.
Yeah, and this is just it's just an amazing performance in every way. It's one of my favorite characters of all time.
Right.
In anything.
I agree. I think it's so great that it's Adam Sandler playing this also, because at the start of the movie, everybody in his life is done with him. And I think most Adam Sandler fans from the 90s are done with him as an actor at this point, that we've seen enough shitty movies of him that any like good karma he had from the 90s has kind of run out. And I feel that with this character Howard, of just like any good karma, or like whatever he was like when he was younger, when Idina Menzel decided to marry him, any good guy aspect of him has kind of run out at this point, and that they are kind of done with him. And I think just Adam Sandler as this role is perfect.
Perfect.
And Robert Pattinson is great in his performance also.
He really is.
So I had watched it. You never saw it. Heaven Only Knows is their movie before this. So Heaven Only Knows it's actually like it's a very different movie. So Heaven Only Knows feels more like a Harmony Korine movie than it does a Safdie Brothers movie. But they wrote the movie Good Time for Robert Pattinson, because Robert Pattinson around that time, he was just done with Twilight, and he wanted something to kind of change his image and differentiate him. And I forget which film festival Heaven Only Knows premiered at, but he saw it and decided, like, these are the people that I want to direct a movie for me, to make it seem like.
So they got on his radar, and then he got in touch with them, and they wrote this specifically for him.
And they wrote this specifically for him.
Because I know that they wrote Howard specifically for Adam Sandler, and they were trying for like 10 years to...
Yes, I did hear about that.
So it's like kind of a little bit of a pattern there. Do we know anything about, just because I'm always interested in this stuff, do we know anything about how they came to be, as far as like, we've talked about different directors who
they don't... They're both relatively young to be filmmakers.
Yeah, they're both in their 30s.
Yeah, they don't have family in the industry, though. They're both... their parents are immigrants from one of the Eastern European countries, and they grew up in Queens, New York, and they've been making like kind of New York style short films since forever. I mean, even like up until right before Good Time, like they didn't really have any known actors in any of their movies. They're just extremely low budget like filmmakers who kind of just went out there.
And then they just kind of built built a reputation.
And then they built a I mean, Good Time was a huge indie success. I mean,
sure. I mean,
when that
if you
movie,
have Pattinson, it's gonna do well.
I mean, everybody kind of loved that movie in like the indie scene.
You know, it's funny. We did The Devil All the Time, and that was one of your top movies of 2020, and one of your top performances.
Yeah,
I gotta say, and I haven't seen all of his films. I certainly didn't see any of the Twilight stuff.
I haven't seen any of the Twilight.
I was too old by the time.
Actually,
that came out.
I watched the first half of like the first Twilight, and I fell asleep.
Okay.
Because it's terrible.
I'm sure it is.
It's really bad.
It's not for us. It's for young children.
Yeah.
But anyway, as far as performances go, this beat the living daylights out of The Devil All the Time. For me.
He's amazing in this. He's a great actor. I mean, you can't judge his performance off of Twilight. He was 17 years old, and someone was like, "Hey, do you want to be the male lead in like one of the biggest, teen romance novels on the planet?"
I'm
no one's gonna say no to that role.
I'm judging it off of The Devil All the Time.
Yeah,
which he wasn't bad. He was good. I mean, to your, you thought it was one of your best performances last year. I'm just saying, I thought Good Time was even better.
No, he's amazing. That's what I'm saying. Where like he does disgusting things in this movie, but you kind of sympathize with him. I mean, you do get the sense of like he is taking advantage of his brother 100%, and it's disgusting what he's doing, where he's coercing a mentally handicapped guy to participate in a robbery with him.
Yeah.
But you also get the sense that he actually does care about his brother a lot and does like want what's best for him.
Kind of. I mean, he also like the whole like taking the wrong person out of the hospital thing. Like, his brother didn't seem to be on the forefront of his mind.
Right.
I mean, I suppose the whole movie is him trying to eventually get him out of the hospital.
Yeah.
But he's really evading authorities.
Right.
No, it's cool, and obviously there's also that pacing that is
these movies are constant anxiety.
And dude, I had 2 double espressos and then watched Good Time and Uncut Gems. So
back to back.
I had fucking my heart rate.
I know they're both
really
bad movies to drink coffee beforehand.
The pacing is really, really just awesome.
It's so impressive. So the way the Safdie brothers kind of split it up is that Josh is the writer, they both direct, and then Benny is the editor. So a lot of that pacing is Benny. I mean, I think that he's so impressive.
Well, they write for it too, because there's especially Uncut Gems. You have, like you said in your breakdown, people talking over each other. It's much more. It's closer to real life than you generally see on films.
Well, that's kind of in both of these movies. There's a hyper-realism to it.
Yeah.
I said in my breakdown, people misspeak, they stumble their words, they talk over each other. They speak the way that people don't speak in movies, that people speak in real life.
Right.
And a lot of the background characters are not played by actual actors.
Which I like that.
The bail bondsman is an actual bail bondsman. Mm-hmm. The social worker in Good Time is an actual social worker, and they're doing their actual job. They're saying, if a guy came in here and was acting like this, how would you actually treat him?
The mafia guy, who, it's funny, like we talk a lot about organized crime and mafia stuff. There's clearly in Uncut Gems an organized crime element, but it's never really defined.
So this is what.
But I was just gonna, before you get to your point, don't forget it. I was just gonna say the main. Well, the big kind of
enforcer.
Yeah,
he wasn't an actor.
Exactly,
he's not an actor.
Which so this kills it.
I think it's he borrowed money, and then that guy hired some gangsters to help him get his money back. Like, I don't think he borrowed.
Don't think Arno was involved in organized crime? To me, it looked like almost Arno was like a captain. Clearly, it's not the Italian mob, but it looked like he would be like a skipper type, and then the other guys were like soldiers.
I'm not.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
it's
sure
never. They never really define it.
Yeah. They never really find it. And when the gangsters kind of show up at the jewelry store, Howard's kind of surprised that he's sending people after him. So,
Right.
or I think he says a line like, "What, did you hire some goons?" That's why I think maybe he loaned Howard some money and then he hired some.
I'm not sure I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I feel like Arno
But
is more
it's
tied
also
in.
not. It's not defined,
Yeah,
and
it's not.
this movie, where I talk about its kind of realistic feel to it, nothing feels like it's supposed to be aesthetically pleasing to the camera. Like every house, specifically Howard's house, and then the apartment at the end of Good Time, they have a very like gaudy 80s vibe to it, and it's like no one in the late 2000s has that. You know,
I love the apartment in Good Time. I also like the that the other character,
the security guard.
The Safdie brother guy plays.
Yeah.
Like, what's his character's name again?
The brother,
Not Connie.
I forget.
Or does the Safdie brother play the actual mentally challenged brother?
Yes.
Or so who is the other actor then?
He's not really well known. He's in a lot of the Safdie brothers. Like he's in their earlier movie and a few of like their shorts.
I like the fact that he thinks that's a nice apartment.
Yeah.
To me, that's hilarious.
Yes.
He's like, "Oh man, this is a nice." Well,
yeah, you know exactly who these people are from the streets.
Yeah.
You know, and then you also have like these are both very New York movies. Like, I love how Adventureland, like this Long Island landmark that makes an appearance of. I guess people outside of Long Island know about Adventureland, but like it's a Long Island
Not
thing.
really. Only from that movie called Adventureland.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
About it. And I don't even think many people know about that.
Yeah. So the fact that it shows up and it's kind of like a treat for people from New York,
but it also works. Like if you,
but it also 100% works in the context of the movie.
Because it's a creepy place.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Forever, I knew that Adventureland was in Good Time.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know. I just didn't watch Good Time because I just didn't get around to it. And then when I found out we were going to do it for the show, I was excited.
Yeah.
And part of it was, I love the Safdie brothers off of the short sample size that I know from them. But that's how much I liked Uncut Gems. And then I knew that Adventureland was in it. So I'm kind of waiting, and it doesn't happen until about 3/4 into the movie.
Right.
And it's at nighttime.
Yeah.
In my head, when I heard Adventureland, I had it in the daytime.
Because you've never been there at night before.
Well, I mean, exactly. Or if you are, it's, a summertime night and it's all lit up. And
right.
It was, and I guess they were I guess they built that set.
I haven't been to Adventureland since I was a kid, so I have no idea what their haunted house looks like.
No,
I imagine that is a set.
Obviously.
Here's the thing. If this was... Good Time wasn't that high budget of a movie. If this was...
I can tell you what. If Adventureland was involved, they had some money, because my band Gamblers, we just shot something and we were going to use Adventureland, and they tried to charge us like fucking crazy. And James is in the building right now. He knows what I'm talking about. But
there we go.
But and we ended up doing it at another theater.
James is the homie.
Yeah. By the way, producer of the show is in the building right now.
James.
This is a special event. He has not been here since episode 1.
Where was I going with this?
The point is...
the point... If this was a different director, I'd say that was a set. But knowing the Safdie brothers, know how they kind of have this realism, like we're on the streets of New York film style to them. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they just wanted to use one of the actual rides. It wouldn't surprise me either way. Honestly,
it's probably a combination of both. It was the inside of the haunted house, and I'm sure they added some different things. Because if you're going in that, first of all, you can't walk around the haunted house. At least that's how they used to have it set up.
I don't remember what the haunted house was like.
You sit in a thing. It's a ride.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
But yeah, so these are both very New York movies.
There are like things in it that are just for New Yorkers. I mentioned Necro, the rapper, who he's a personality
in the breakdown. Yeah,
he's a personality around New York, and it gives that New York feel to it of just like, I know this guy. But
unfortunately, the fat Jewish is in Uncut Gems. That's the one bad thing about that movie.
Because I know
that guy sucks.
Because he stole a meme from Peter McManus Cafe.
Yes, he did.
Because the fat Jewish was well known for stealing memes back in the day. Now he gives everybody credit.
Is that what he does now?
Well, he has to.
Is he still active?
I mean, I haven't heard from him for a while, but like, also, like, who cares about like memers anymore? Like, fucking.
Well, they made a lot of money, like the full fuck Jerry thing, and that gets into the whole Fire Festival, which we should do that at some point.
We should.
We should do both of them.
Have you watched both of them?
I just with the Netflix one.
The Netflix one is good, but the
other one's better.
The Hulu one has Billy McFarland in it.
Yeah, okay.
Interviewed.
I don't remember.
But all right, more famously than Necro or the fat Jewish, Mike Francesa, who, if you're from New York, like you know that voice.
All right, we're back on the podcast. All right, Movies by McManus.
We're doing Movies by McManus. No,
no, we're not doing A-Rod right now. Okay, call back.
Yeah, call back. Now.
When the Safdie Brothers are the Safdie Brothers. When the Safdie Brothers are being the Safdie Brothers, they're on Scorsese.
But like, you have
Adam Sandler is a leading man.
But you have New York personalities showing up in your film.
He's a radio host.
Yes, he's a radio host. Giving that New York authenticity to it. I also, what's great about Mike Francesa, which like, I guess if you're not from New York, like maybe you didn't have the same experience, but you get that Adam Sandler's character, Howard, and Mike Francesa's character have a pretty long pre-existing relationship. So when you first see him, you get that same feeling that Adam Sandler's character is. You walk in, you see him, and you go, "Oh, I know this guy."
100%.
Him and the character have a long-standing relationship, and especially if you're from New York, you and Mike Francesa have a long-standing relationship. Because if you're into sports radio, you know who Mike Francesa is.
That's why these guys. I mean, we're from New York, so it's biased, but like, I fucking love these guys.
No,
because just the fact that they even put Mike Francesa in a movie, but then they did it in the right way.
Yeah.
Like, to have Mike Francesa be like a mob-related numbers bookie guy who also is involved in an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
That's fucking perfect.
They got the feeling in Uncut Gems specifically, they got the feeling of just Financial District Manhattan, or I should say Diamond District Manhattan, to a T.
Yeah.
Of like, it's fast paced, you're walking everywhere. If you're in a car, you're stuck in traffic. Fucking.
And Sandler has that salesman thing down. Like,
everybody who has spent time in Manhattan knows someone like that.
And I love, and it was like, and it's not over the top and like almost like a caricature. Like, he's like real. He's like, Garnett, you're a big guy. Like, what do you need that small watch for? Like, he's just like, he's upselling him while he's being nice. Like, it's not over the top sales. It's like just that New York thing.
There's they go up a few floors in an elevator, and there's a jewelry like the fact that there's a jewelry shop a couple floors up is very Manhattan
and very nerve-wracking too.
And very
just like
nerve-wracking.
that claustrophobia of Manhattan.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
The whole movie is super claustrophobic, but especially his actual shop is like, don't you? Whenever we're in the shop, my heart is just like something's off here.
Yes.
Like, that's a horrible environment to just...
Well, being in Manhattan, if you're in one of those shops that like isn't ground level, that's a couple floors up, like that's how it feels. Like, every building in Manhattan is tiny.
Reminds me of this karaoke place in Koreatown where you go up and it's up in the floors. Like it's not like a building you walk into. Like the one floor is a restaurant, then there's a thing. Like it's just.
But here's the thing: the fact that they even thought to put the jewelry store a couple floors up.
Yeah.
Going to Good Times, you don't get a Manhattan vibe to it, but you get this part of New York, like the Queens border of Long Island,
right,
that no movie really explores that, because if you're not from...
I'm low-key jealous. Like, if you're not... I'm like, respect, but I'm like, we should have fucking done something.
Well, it's just, if you're not from, like, the edge of Queens, like the Queens Long Island border, like no one who's visiting New York is going to that area.
I just appreciate like the outer, the outer people getting some, shine, and I'll put Queens in there too, like the outer Queens thing, and then
the outer Queens, and then they go out to Farmingdale,
right?
They get this kind of
the drone shot on 110.
Yeah, they get this very. In Uncut Gems, I loved that Howard worked in the city but lived on Long Island, because in a lot of, if you're not a New Yorker, you have your character live and work in the city, and it's like, no, most people who live in the city most people who work in the city don't live there. They commute back and forth from Long Island.
That was interesting too. You know what I'm thinking of? And James's presence here is reminding me, this is a legitimate question. How the hell did they get a drone shot on 110 by Adventureland?
Oh, yeah.
Because Republic Airport is there, and that's restricted space. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. You have to, because
James said off mic that they must have gotten permits. Because as a matter of fact, we tried to shoot something.
I worked on a show where we tried to do something we had to we had to change filming locations because they wanted to do a drone shot, and we were too close to Republic Airport. So we had to we were at a house, and we were going to do a drone shot swooping down, and we had to go a few houses,
we did something
a mile
similar
or two.
For gamblers.
Yeah.
We did something similar, and as a matter of fact, we were in the parking lot, and the drone won't even activate it. It'll tell you that you're too close.
You know who was involved in that whole drone sequence?
On Good Time?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Casey Neistat, the big vlogger out of the city.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
He's like anybody who watches vlogs will know.
But they would have had to get a permit.
He's like the creator of the vlog. But his team he didn't fly the drone. Probably some other guy did.
Yeah.
Those drone shots are sick.
They are.
Yeah.
So you saw a Good Time.
They almost don't even look like drone shots. They look like helicopter shots.
They do.
Right.
They do.
But he was a big part of doing that whole drone scene.
Right.
James, I'm not 100% sure if people are going to hear you when you're talking. But it's all right. I mean, they might be able to.
This is a fun one. We haven't had one that's been a little off the cuff like this.
We have two cameras. We never used that one for.
We use it for the other angle event, eventually, occasionally.
Where is I going with this?
I don't know.
Everything about this movie is great. The Safdie brothers, right after Uncut Gems, they made another short film with Adam Sandler's, and with Benny Safdie that I also liked a lot. It was kind of just like a, it was a short whatever thing, but it was fun.
On Vimeo, right?
On Vimeo. This is going to be no, Venmo. And then I was like, no, Venmo. It's the money thing. Where Adam Sandler, Goldman versus Silverman, a lot of their same style kind of shows up in that short film of I like how it's Adam Sandler fully in gold around tourists who if they knew it was Adam Sandler, they'd be freaking out because, Times Square, everybody is from, Michigan or wherever, no actual New Yorkers.
Shout out to Michigan.
Shout out to Michigan.
I mean, no hate.
No hate.
No hate
but
whatsoever.
The only people in Times Square who are from New York are the Goldman and Silverman and Elmo performers.
Right.
Basically.
And the Naked Cowboy.
I don't like that guy.
I did. There wasn't a thing on him where it was a day in the life of the Naked Cowboy. It's actually very interesting.
Oh, all right. Anyway. But So they shot this of basically two street performers fighting over a corner.
Yes.
Shot on hidden cameras around actual tourists who have no idea that they're in a movie. You get that really realistic vibe, and then after they're done fighting, you follow Adam Sandler's character to his apartment and see just like how desperate he really is. And it's like this New York desperateness of just like, yeah, I need to fight this guy because he's on my corner and that's how I make my money, and I'm not going to be able to pay rent this month.
I mean, that's real shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, there's like, you know, actually like Vice Munchies, I think, did some really good stuff about like, about street food vendors.
Oh,
there's one where this guy, he's been like selling hot dogs for years, and you see him like, you know, going to pick up his I don't know what they call it, his, you know, vending thing in the morning at like, you know, where they service them, and then you see him and he fucking like sleeps in his car, and like, you know, that shit you take that for granted when you walk past the street and see like a pretzel guy or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you can't, the authenticity of the Safdie brothers you can't fake.
Exactly.
That's that's something about the show. Like, you never watched How I Met Your Mother.
No.
How I Met Your Mother takes place in New York City, and you can tell the people who run that show are not from New York.
Of course, because they're all in L.A.
Yeah.
And they probably shoot it in L.A., just like Friends was supposed to be in New York.
And Friends also, it's just like, it's another, like every person in Friends has their own car, and it's like no one has a car.
The only one who seems like he's actually from New York is Joey Tribbiani.
Yeah, well, Joey Tribbiani. Yeah, shout out to Joey Tribbiani, because Joey Tribbiani is also from Staten Island.
I didn't know that. Is that right?
Yeah, which, like, that's great that's an added thing to his character, because it's like, yes, someone who's acting like that would be from Staten Island.
Right.
But yeah, I love this. In both movies, Uncut Gems and Good Times, of kind of this close to the ground, realistic, like we're shooting on actual location. It kind of it gives me, going back to like my film school days, there are a lot of films kind of similar to this coming out of like Italy right after World War II, where Italy was basically like in ruins, and there was a lot of filmmakers coming up in Italy who did not have the means to shoot on a studio like they were doing out in Hollywood, and they were doing basically these like close to the ground movies about desperation, without real actors, with people who are not normally acting, with people like you know, if someone's a baker, that's like an actual baker that they're filming, and it does remind me of that. It's kind of bringing back to like an old school style of filmmaking that never really left, because a lot of indie films are still kind of doing that. But it's nice to see like a big movie with a big name like Adam Sandler doing a style like that. Also, like Lakeith Stanfield is in this movie, and he is amazing.
We love him.
We
big
love
stands
him
over here.
Big Stanfield stands.
Stanfield stands
over him. This is the first movie you've ever seen him on.
He's so good.
I remember afterwards you were like, the guy that plays the dude who works for Howard, like who is he? He was great. And I was like, how do you not like? Yeah. Because I knew him already from he's in Get Out, and he was in Atlanta. So I already, and Sorry to Bother You. Mm-hmm. So I had already knew that actor for a while and knew that he was great. Yeah. And
everybody was good though. Julia Fox, she wasn't an actor either.
Julia Fox is a model. She's not an actress.
I was gonna say appropriately named
Julia Fox. Even Idina.
I'm still working on my comedy. All right, give it. Even
Idina Menzel isn't known
also a Fox,
or isn't known for her movie acting. Not
she
at all.
kills it, by the way.
And she killed it.
She kills
and
it.
everybody in this movie killed it. And I think it's a
I'm
lot
also
of
kind of into her. I don't know why.
Adele Dazeem.
Adele Dazeem.
Because I feel like a lot of it
Another crossover with James.
is this dialogue. There was a Adele Dazeem thing with James?
He shot something for her.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
James is the homie. James is the homie and the producer.
This is a big James episode.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's not usually here. We usually don't get him. Adele Dazeem.
Adele Dazeem. Adina Menzel.
And
No, don't say that.
we don't. All right, we didn't hear him because he's off there. Anyway,
By the way, thank you for bringing that to my attention because I was not aware of that. I'm gonna have to hit you up for that link again.
okay.
We'll leave that alone.
Well, I think a lot of how great the acting in this movie.
She's also great in Frozen. I mean, talk about range.
Yeah, of course. Is a lot of like this realistic dialogue. It makes them seem like more realistic actors, you know, of what I was talking about. Like they talk over each other, their words stumble, they misspeak,
Right.
you know, they're not, it's not always as staged like you would see in a regular movie. Like the closest thing we have to like dialogue that doesn't like everything feels kind of off the cuff, and the only real thing in Uncut Gems that feels like an actual like written speech is kind of when Adam Sandler is talking to Kevin Garnett, and he has that thing of just like, I'm not a basketball player, this is how I win.
Even that feels kind of fine.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really bother me. I know what you're saying.
I mean,
like,
none of it bothers me.
no, I know
but,
what you
like,
mean.
That's
Like
the closest
that
thing.
one feels more
Yeah.
prepared than
Yes,
the rest of
yes.
the dialogue. Yeah.
The rest of it feels
way-
like very much like they're just freestyling.
Did he have like the top of his teeth are not his real teeth, right? Did they change his teeth, Adam Sandler?
Oh, I have no idea. I have no
There was
idea.
something about his Howard smile that I thought maybe was.
I don't know. I've
different.
never really noticed about it.
Yeah. I could be wrong. It could be his teeth.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
I want to bring up, because I mentioned it in my breakdown, and I think it's very interesting, is that Connie from Good Time is supposed to be loosely based off of Charles Manson.
Yeah, to me that was a bit of a surprise.
It was a surprise to me too, but it was just like basically of this character who has the charm to basically convince people to do what he wants.
Yeah. Also weird. Why'd they have him hook up with a 16-year-old? I know it's just to pretend it's just a movie, but even in a fake scenario, I was like,
100%. And that's why I'm talking about just like he's the more disgusting character.
how old is
for
he
that
supposed to
alone.
be? Like late 20s?
I guess he's well, if he went to prison and back, then he must
That doesn't
be
mean anything.
late 20s. I
Over
don't know.
18. but,
Yeah. I don't know.
Early 30s. They never really pinned that down.
No, they don't. I'm gonna guess he's like
28.
supposed to be 20. Yeah, 28 sounds right. Which disgusting.
100%.
Yeah.
Piece of shit. By the way, that Richard Ramirez series, awful.
I watched
it was
the first
great.
2 episodes of Night Stalker. We're talking
Yeah.
about.
Just as far as like,
I watched the 2 episodes. Hard to get through.
yeah. Really well done.
I
though.
want to talk about that more next time because.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
just saying, as far as like,
Yeah.
you know,
Of disgusting people.
yeah. And if he's basing it off of Charles Manson or someone that's gonna like, you know, mess around with, you know, kids.
Yeah.
Ramirez was doing that as well, really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I don't know. These are 2 really good movies but for me, and maybe it's a little unfair because I had more time under their belt. But I feel like Uncut Gems is the superior movie.
Yeah. Well, no, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I said that like any flaws that I might have felt from Good Time, they definitely fixed in Uncut Gems. They also
what flaws would you bring out?
Flaws is not the right word. It's just everything. Their style is just more perfected.
It is. Uncut Gems is more focused.
Yeah.
Good Times was I don't want to say it was losing me at some points, but it definitely meanders.
Well, Uncut Gems keeps that anxiety with you the entire time. I feel like Good Times doesn't. There are lulls in Good Times. Every second of Uncut Gems, it's just like, well. Even like when he's sitting at the scene of him just sitting at his daughter's dance recital is one of the most tense scenes, because you're sitting there just like, you're at a dance recital, you got shit to do. What are you doing? And
I love the dynamic of the small talk between the parents while like the guys that are like maybe gonna kill him or like there. Like that shit's great. I love the mundane. I mean, almost so Sopranos-esque between the family dynamic and the criminal dynamic.
They have just Monday of just like, you're a full-time criminal and now you have to have Sunday dinner.
Right.
And like there is a total other side of your life going on.
Yeah. You know? I mean, Howard's not a full-time criminal, but I mean, that I can't imagine living like that.
That was the thing about Howard is like he gets the gem in the beginning. If he didn't pull any of his schemes at all, he would have went to an appraiser, got it appraised for the appropriate amount, and been totally out of debt. Right. He could have just because it's all about making the side hustles and stuff. And also in Good Time, at any point in Good Time, Connie could have just went home. You know?
What do you mean? He robbed the bank.
No. I mean, at least in the beginning, like the police aren't really. I guess at the end, I don't know. I know what I mean is like at no point in Good Time does Connie seem to stop and make a plan. He's kind of just constantly just going.
Yeah, the person who's like Howard, who's going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to like loan sharks, is not making like sound decisions anyway. But
that's true.
The Connie and his brother's like family life is never like that defined. Like what they live with their grandmother, or they have a grandmother. What's the deal with their parents? We never really get that.
We never really know.
Something's obviously fractured.
Something's gone. We know the brother lives with the grandma. I don't think Connie lives with him because it kind of seems like Connie and the grandma don't like each other.
Because Connie's another one who's like, like Howard. Howard, I find to be much more likable.
He's running out of all karma of just anyone in his life.
Exactly.
Both of them are great where like,
I mean, dude,
what you said is just like their backstories aren't established, but you get from the action of just like, you basically can come up with your own backstory for both of these characters, and it's probably pretty accurate to what happened. Like we know up until this point, like this isn't a first time occurrence for either of these characters.
We know that Howard is a great headache for everybody he encounters, even Mike Francesa, which was great, to have his, because that's the way that he deals with annoying callers.
Exactly.
Was very much the same type of. That wasn't too much of a stretch. And I've actually seen interviews where he was saying like the Safdie brothers were fans because they're big, crazy like Knicks fans. So they're, New York
really?
Sport. Yeah, but they said exactly to Francesa, they wanted him to deal with Howard akin to how he would a bad caller or something like that, which I thought was awesome.
All right. That's cool. How are we on time? Because I know
we could wrap it up.
Yeah, because I know we got... Oh, yeah. All right. The Safdie brothers, out of new directors that are just coming out recently, probably my favorites.
Uncut Gems, hands
Uncut
down.
Gems is amazing.
Best movie, my favorite movie that we've done so far. It's one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, probably my favorite movie we've done so far. Good Times is another great one.
It was good.
Another great one. And if you're into weird independent stuff, check their stuff out from before Good Time, because they get weird, they get some close to the ground, real gritty stuff. And if you're a weirdo like me, it's fun to watch. All right, this is Movies by McManus. Check out our YouTube video, our YouTube channel, where I'll do kind of shorter breakdowns of these of our movies each week. And check us out on social media, Movies by McManus. Check us out on Spotify. And I'm Greg.
Podcast apps.
And podcast apps.
Yeah, leave some comments, leave some likes if you can. Thank you for continuing to download the show. January, which I don't know, by the time this comes out, we got about a week and a half left in January as it stands right now, and January has already, as the building burns to the ground, it was good while it lasted. We'll see it. No, January has already eclipsed the number of downloads that we got last month, and they keep growing each and every month. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for hanging with us.
Yes, thank you, and have a good night.
You gave him the socials.
I gave him the socials.
At
Movies by McManus, Facebook. Movies by McManus, Twitter.
Yep.
Movies by McManus, Instagram.
This was a fun, loose one.
Yeah, we're playing
Fun
fast
and loose.
And James was here, so
Yes.
it's all good.
And Alex was here, but
And
he's
Alex,
with us
but
every
he's
week.
with- he's every
The two
week.
producers of the show are here.
All
Thank
right,
you very
have
much.
a good night.
Later. And we're talking over each other like in Uncut Gems.